This is Elliot Serrano and Jose Melendez coming to you from Dreamland Comics in Schaumburg, Illinois, here on CCW TV. And we just got through talking about Amazing Spider-Man. Let's switch gears and look at DC and the Blackest Night event. Green Lantern Corps number 42 by
Peter Tomasi, Patrick Gleason.
We've talked a lot about Blackest Night. You posted that as a question on the CCW blog. Has the Blackest Night event been living up to the hype? I've already gone on record as saying that this probably has been, for me, the comic book event of the year because, one, it has been expertly executed. DC has been pushing all the right buttons with this. And two, when Marvel completely evented me out, and hell, you know what? Even DC with Final Crisis had evented me out. We're talking an event that took a year and a half to complete. Yeah. Okay. They still managed to draw me into a quote-unquote event and get me to care about it.
We've actually had a couple of commenters saying that this might be one of the best events ever.
I want to say Blackest...
Execution-wise, I think they might be right.
This probably... And you know what it was? What it is about Blackest Night, why it's working, is because they're not being overly ambitious. They're doing like the first events, like events used to be back in the day. You remember, even when you looked at books, like back in the day, like when Marvel Secret Wars first came out, and Jim Shooter was writing that book, people, editors had the option of opting in or not being part of that event. If you were part of the event, great. If not, you weren't. And it didn't affect you. You could still read the books and still enjoy it. Unlike Marvel now, where if you want...
It's almost mandatory.
Yeah, it's almost mandatory to be in it, because let's face it, if you're not a part of the Dark Reign event, your book is not going to sell. Marvel is pushing this whole thing, only the Dark Reign titles, you look at the top-selling books, everyone's, in one way or another, part of the Dark Reign thing, with the exception of Agents of Atlas, which is right smack in the middle of Dark Reign, and has a Dark Reign logo slapped on it, and yet, okay. Anyway, back to Blackest Night. They're doing this really, really well, and at the halfway point now. I know in the main series, issue number 4 has just come out, and what's been going on in the main series, it's the echoes of it, reverberations of it can be felt in the Green Lantern title and in Green Lantern Corps. I remember early on when I said Green Lantern Corps wasn't even my favorite book. My favorite tie-in. Remember how I said there's too much going on, I can't keep up with it, and I'm not getting it?
This is actually, I understand where you're coming from because you don't read the book, but since I've read every issue of this series, I'm actually enjoying this one a lot more than most of the other stuff.
Well, that's the thing. You asked me to read this. I know a lot of you guys were talking about this. This was put on the blog to discussion about this
really
title.
Big happened. Oh, yeah. And also, if you haven't read this, we're going to spoil something really huge.
We're going to spoil something.
I don't know how you've missed it so far. Made it on the internet for 5 days without hearing about it.
And someone spoiled it for me on the blog, but no big. This book, actually, I was there going, okay, now I'm getting Green Lantern Corps. And again, this is someone I haven't been reading the book up to now. I mean, I haven't really been reading every issue, but it seems like it's hit a rhythm now. The series has hit this rhythm where now you can jump in the middle, and let's just face it, we just know that a lot of shit is hitting the fan, and the Green Lantern Corps has to deal with it. And good golly, if things just don't keep getting worse before they get better. Mm-hmm. And what is happening here? In the beginning of this issue, we have a bunch of Green Lanterns taking on the resurrected children of the Lanterns that were killed by the Sinestro Corps. And they're...
the Sinestro Corps that Crib she was responsible for killing Green Lantern Green Lanterns and then kidnapping their children after
Right.
they killed them. And then they all died in the last issue. You find out that because she wasn't there to take care of them, she was
Right.
captured by the Star Sapphires.
Right.
It's really convoluted, I know. But, so, yeah, all the kids died because of that. But, you know, they're all back now.
They're all back now, and they're creepy.
Yeah.
We're talking like, what was it, the Village of the Damned, you know? These are creepy little zombie kids trying to eat the Green Lanterns. So, you know, if you're just into creepy horror movies, you can just jump right into this sucker and just pick up as you go. Because on top of that, Pete Tomasi expertly drops exposition as you go along the way that kind of fills you in on what you need to know. Mm-hmm. And that's something that's a rare thing for writers, because you have exposition and then you have exposition that sounds like exposition. You don't want it to sound like
and
exposition.
I think that this might come into where he used to be an editor.
Exactly.
And he knows now what the difference is between the two.
No, and I know...
I mean, and I have to say that Pete Tomasi in Green Lantern Corps, there's probably more words in one issue of Green Lantern Corps than in any other book that come out that month.
Yeah.
But it feels really natural, and it's never a chore to read. There's just so much information and dialogue that he throws in there, and it never feels like work to read it.
And on top of that, Patrick Gleason is given he's given a tough task. I mean, he has to render these space battles and these great big wide expanses. You know, there's a look. He brings this look to it that is I'm just loving. I mean, you know, this guy is just rocking the book right now. He's given a tough task. I mean, I can only imagine what a Pete Tomasi script looks like, and you know, and that Patrick Gleason is not, you know, having an aneurysm right now after, you know, midway through this whole series, is just astounding, because the scope, the epic scope of this story right now is just really mind-blowing. And I don't mean to, you know, speak in hyperbole, but it's kind of applicable here. There's a lot going on, a lot of crap gets thrown at you, and man,
so
I'm sorry, and if every book doesn't include a gut punch.
It has been lately, but two major things. The Black Lanterns have finally hit the 100% power level. It finally happens in this issue that they've been alluding to for months and months and months in every tie-in.
That's bad.
Yeah.
Bad.
So once that happens, they're trying to destroy the power battery, the OS power battery, like they did to the Star Sapphires in Green Lantern a couple months ago.
It's building to something. I know they are building to something. I mean, it seems like... You know, it seems like it's just a case of zombies and the Black Lanterns wanting to just destroy all the Lantern Corps and so on. But there's some hints dropped here, too, that the Black Lanterns are doing something. They're constructing something. They're directing the will and the energy of all these deaths that they're causing. And there's still a payoff to come. And I'm intrigued as to what that is.
Yeah, one thing I want to say about this book really quick, that we've always talked about this, and I always think about this when I'm reading this, and this is going to be really quick, I'm not going to make this a big speech or anything, is that this book right here, and what Pete Tomasi is doing with this book, is that there are just as many female lanterns as there are male lanterns, and I think that's awesome. And you don't even need to acknowledge, he doesn't acknowledge the fact that there's a difference between gender. He just writes everybody to the best of their ability, and... Seriously, the females in Green Lantern Corps are probably some of the best being written in the industry today, easily. I just wanted to throw that in there. But a couple other things that he's doing right is that you see somebody like Kilowog, who always comes off as a tough badass. Nothing ever gets to him. He finally starts losing it a little bit here in these two pages when he's
confronted by the faces of all those children that have died. That he feels his
old mentor, and then the other lantern, and then just the fact that so many Green Lanterns have been dying lately, and he's pretty much in charge of recruiting and and preparing them all to go out there. And he's been putting on this false tough facade, but it finally starts to fall on you, and you're like, oof.
Yeah. And on top of that, you kind of close the book on an era of Green Lantern with this issue. I read there's a funny thing that occurred to me as I was reading this. I kept thinking about how, for the longest time, you didn't have the Green Lantern Corps.
After Parallax.
After Parallax. But not only that, but that there was this idea in DC editorial that the very notion that you could have all these people with these infinitely powerful rings just didn't make sense. And that you could only have one Green Lantern. That by having only one Green Lantern, that's what made him special. Mm-hmm. So, folks who are familiar with the history of Green Lantern know that ultimately that fell upon Kyle Rayner to be that one special Green Lantern. And I remember Kyle from when he was first created and first introduced. You had a lot of old school Green Lantern fans that rejected him. Yep. And it took a very long time for that character to be accepted by old school Green Lantern fans. Mind you, there were a lot of kids who started reading Green Lantern because of Kyle. Mm-hmm. And they liked Kyle Rayner's character. And they related more to him. They related more to the young, creative, artistic Kyle Rayner as opposed to the fighter pilot, old school, Hal Jordan. Well, how do you close a book on it? How do you close a chapter on an era? You give that one special lantern, Kyle Rayner, you give him a hero's moment. I mean, and an incredible hero's moment. And I'm reading this, and here we're going into the spoiler territory, so if you don't know this, stop now. Okay. I was reading this, and I kind of knew. Again, someone had commented on the blog what happened, but I was reading it, and I'm going through my analytical writer's mind as I'm reading. I'm going, oh, okay, yeah, I can see that. Oh no, oh yeah, oh, ooh, that's bad. Oh, he's not dead. Oh, look at the way they framed it. He can't be dead. Oh, I was wrong. Because here it is. Kyle Rayner sacrifices himself to give the Corps just a little more time, to buy them a little more time. And it's just, it's a gut punch. Again, and I wasn't the biggest Kyle Rayner fan when he was first created. And yet, what they're doing with these characters now is really making you care about them. Mm-hmm. Regardless of how you might have felt about them over the years.
So, this is the second big Green Lantern to die in this book in the last few months. Again, written by Pete Tomasi. The other one was Sodom Yat, who was Ion, who sacrificed himself to reignite the Red Sun. And that's how, if a hero's going to die, this is how you do it.
Right.
Because you make their sacrifice meaningful. You make the people who are reading it care, and and emotionally get invested in these characters. And yeah, so this is pretty tough. And in case you guys can't put two and two together, there's a Red Lantern that dies in here, and which means that his ring will be going to somebody else. And the preview for the next issue is Rage of a Red Lantern. Well, one of the Green Lanterns becomes a Red Lantern in the next issue. And somebody's close to Kyle Rayner. So things are going to get a lot worse.
Yeah. Things are getting worse before they get better. And I'm really intrigued. The payoff. I want to see what the payoff is. I'm really looking forward to it. And this story just keeps building and building and building, and it keeps moving and moving.
Now, realistically, I don't think Kyle Rayner's going to be dead very long. I don't think he's coming back as a Black Lantern per se, but this Blackest Night thing, I think, is a way to bring back a lot of dead people to bring them back in the DC universe because they never should have died. And I think he's going to be one of the ones that eventually comes back, but doesn't mean the sacrifice means any less within the story and the context.
Even so, I mean, the what they're doing, we all know that heroes don't stay dead long. So They don't stay dead forever. All right. We're going to talk about another book that was just folded into the Blackest Night event and that has benefited tremendously from the Blackest Night Rings promotion. But we'll have to do that in the next segment. We hope you join us then.